I'm Kevin. Welcome to Sports Live 100. This is chapter 3756 of NFL history. September 11th, 1966. Philadelphia Eagles, St. Louis Cardinals. Two birds, one brand new stadium, one league standing in the doorway between the old NFL and whatever the hell professional football was about to become. The merger had already been announced. In June of 1966, the NFL and the AFL agreed. The war's ending. Not immediately, and not cleanly. Not like flipping a light switch. For 4 more seasons, the leagues would still play separate regular seasons. They would still have their own identities, their own grudges, and their own styles. But now, there was a destination. One championship game between the NFL champion and the AFL champion. Wasn't yet the Super Bowl, officially. It was the AFL-NFL World Championship game. A name only a committee could love. But the idea was alive. By the end of the season, the NFL champion would meet the AFL champion, and football would start becoming the national machine we know today. So every NFL team in September of 1966 was technically chasing history, not just a league title, a first seat at the new table. The Cardinals and Eagles were not the obvious favorites for that seat, but they weren't irrelevant either. The St. Louis Cardinals were fairly new to St. Louis. This was their 7th season there after leaving Chicago. This was their first regular season game in Busch Memorial Stadium. The old Cardinals had history. They'd won the 1947 NFL championship back in Chicago. 1 year later, they lost the 1948 championship game to the Eagles. That's good shared DNA. These teams had once traded the whole league title, back and forth. By 1966, that was ancient history, but not dead history. The St. Louis version had come close in 1964, going 9-3-2 and finishing just behind Cleveland in the East. Then they dropped to 5-9 in 65. So this was a prove-it year. New stadium, better roster, enough talent to matter. The names that color the Cardinals are easy. Charlie Johnson at quarterback, Johnny Rowland, a rookie halfback, immediately looked like he belonged. Jackie Smith, the tight end, already building a Hall of Fame career. And Larry Wilson, the safety, was the kind of defensive back who makes old football feel dangerous. He picked off 10 passes in 1966. He wasn't just a name on the roster, he was a problem. Philadelphia was already trying to climb out of something. The Eagles were just 6 years removed from the 1960 championship when they beat Vince Lombardi's Packers. That was still, at that time, the last time anybody had beat Lombardi in a postseason game. But after that, the Eagles drifted. The old championship team thinned out, the roster turned over, and Joe Kuharich tried to rebuild it in his image. That meant trading Sonny Jurgensen to Washington for Norm Snead. It meant moving on from Tommy McDonald and making the line bigger, the team younger, and the whole city angrier. But there was talent here too. Norm Snead had a big arm and a shaky week-to-week reputation. Timmy Brown was a real all-purpose weapon. Pete Retzlaff was still a serious tight end. Bob Brown was a monster tackle and future Hall of Famer. Jim Ringo was there at center, late in his own Hall of Fame career. Ollie Matson, another Hall of Famer, was there too. Although by 1966, he was more a legend than an engine. So it's not a game between two nobodies. It's a game between two franchises trying to re-enter the argument. For a while, Philadelphia looked sharper. The game was played in drizzle in front of about 39,000 people at the new Busch Stadium. Eagles opened with a 14-play, 76-yard drive. Nothing flashy, just old NFL patience. Izzy Lang ran effectively. Snead hit Timmy Brown on a screen, and Sam Baker finished it with a 23-yard field goal. Philadelphia led 3-0. St. Louis answered in the second quarter, but even that answer had frustration built into it. Roy Shivers gave the Cardinals good field position with a kickoff return. The Cardinals moved near the goal line, then a delay penalty moved them back. Jim Bakken came in and kicked a short field goal. Tie game, 3-3. Then the Cardinals had a moment that almost broke the game open. Johnny Rowland returned a punt, 52 yards for what looked like a touchdown. It came back because of roughing the kicker penalty. Perfect old NFL chaos. A rookie announces himself with a huge special teams play, and the play disappears because somebody hit the punter. Philadelphia took advantage. Jim Nettles intercepted Charlie Johnson, and Snead hit Izzy Lang for 24 yards. Then Timmy Brown broke loose for a 23-yard touchdown run. At halftime, the Eagles led 10-3. For St. Louis, the offense still looked like it was trying to assemble itself in real time. Johnson had targets. Rowland had juice. Jackie Smith was there. Sonny Randall was there, but the Cardinals were not smooth. Not yet. They chipped away in the third quarter. Back and hit from 47, which in 1966, it's not an automatic. That made it 10-6. Then came the game's strangest weird hinge. In the fourth quarter, St. Louis was driving, but they got knocked backward. Johnson was sacked, and the Cardinals were stuck, third and forever. 3rd and 33. That's where a drive goes to die. Instead, Johnson threw towards Sonny Randall. The ball was bobbled, deflected, and Johnny Rowland somehow ended up with it for 37 yards. It's not structure, it's survival, and it's a first down. Now the Cardinals were alive. Johnson hit Jackie Smith for 9. A pass interference call moved the ball to the 1. Then Johnson kept it himself and scored. St. Louis led for the first time, 13-10. The Eagles didn't fold. Snead got them moving. Pete Retzlaff made a key catch. Sam Baker hit from 33, and with just under 2 minutes left, the game was tied at 13. That should have been enough to send it towards a draw, or at least to make St. Louis cautious. But the Cardinals pushed. Johnson completed 2 passes to Sonny Randall. Willis Crenshaw hit a 10-yard run. The Cardinals got close enough for back-in. There was even a fumbled snap that cost them yardage, because football in 1966 was never simple. Then Philadelphia jumped early, and the encroachment penalty made the kick easier. With 5 seconds left, Jim Bakken hit from 27 yards. Cardinals 16, Eagles 13. That's the game. Not a masterpiece, not a shootout, not a mythology machine. It was a wet, tight, opening day game decided by a kicker, a rookie's broken play catch, and a quarterback sneak. But it mattered because of what it seemed to promise. For St. Louis, it looked like the beginning of something real. The Cardinals beat Philadelphia, then Washington, then Cleveland, then Philadelphia again, this time 41-10 at Franklin Field. They then beat the Giants and reached 5-0. Then they tied Dallas 10-10. And at that moment, St. Louis was a contender. But the season bent. They lost at Washington, recovered for a couple weeks, and got to 8-2-1. Then the floor cracked. Loss at Dallas, loss at Atlanta, loss at Cleveland. They finished 8-5-1, fourth in the Eastern Conference, with more improvement than reward. Johnny Rowland became a Pro Bowler. Jackie Smith had a major year. Larry Wilson was an All-Pro. The team was better, and it still did not make the postseason. Philadelphia's path was stranger. The Eagles lost this opener, 1-2, then got hammered by St. Louis and Dallas in back-to-back weeks. They were 2-3 and unstable. Then they steadied themselves. They beat Pittsburgh, the Giants, Dallas, San Francisco, Pittsburgh again, Cleveland, and Washington. They finished 9-5, ahead of St. Louis in the standings, even though St. Louis had swept them. Then the Eagles went to the playoff bowl. The playoff bowl, you remember that? The playoff bowl was a consolation game for second-place teams. They lost it to the Baltimore Colts, while Dallas went to play Green Bay Packers in the NFL championship game. So for the Eagles and the Cardinals, the opener didn't define their season. It lied a little bit. St. Louis looked like the team with momentum, and Philadelphia looked like the team chasing. By December, Philadelphia had the better record, but St. Louis had the head-to-head damage. Neither bird reached the first AFL-NFL championship game. That went through Green Bay. The Packers beat Dallas for the NFL title, then beat Kansas City and Los Angeles. But on September 11th, 1966, the new football world had just been announced, and these two franchises were trying to figure out where they belonged inside it. The Eagles were chasing the last echo of 1960. The Cardinals were chasing the first real St. Louis breakthrough. Chapter 3756 belongs to St. Louis because Jim Balkin put his foot through the final 5 seconds. Cardinals 16, Eagles 13. Old NFL, new stadium, merger on the horizon. That's a chapter. Thanks for watching.